Okay, so in the School of Tourism we've been tracking, a lot of you obviously track tutorial attendance. We've also been tracking lecture attendance. And well, I just wanted to investigate a quick survey into, or analysis into the impact it might have had on final grades. So, just plain common sense. As you know, STAR have instituted this compulsory 60% attendance this year or this semester. Anecdotally, we all know that students that turn up are going to do better. I'm just trying to put some numbers to that. But it is obviously difficult to convince students to buy into it. One student who I noticed hadn't been coming for a while said, "I'm too busy." I said, "I thought you were a face-to-face student." He said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "Well, what are you too busy doing?" Now, he couldn't answer me, but I mean, I said, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're a full-time student. And you've all heard every excuse underneath the sun. Back in my day, it used to be the dog ate my homework. Now it was the dog ate my memory stick. All right, so how do we do it? Our classroom sizes, from about 60 to 100 or so. So in my classes and some of the colleagues, we just hand around a sheet of paper with their names on it. They put their student number and sign it in. We do this on a weekly basis as best as possible. Obviously, some weeks we have field trips, some weeks public holidays. So as best as possible, we do it for every lecture and every tutorial. And this is counted by week, by individual student. So I set up a database with the lecture attendance percentage, tutorial attendance, final grade, obviously at the end of the semester, and then I pull some demographics off the SOLs, of the staff kiosk, gender, country of origin, scholarship or not. Also for the students, if they told me that they were going to be away on a field trip, I made the assumption that if they took the time to tell me, I assumed that they would have turned up or if they were sick, they would have turned up if they could have. So in the database, you can see it's across the course IDs won't mean anything to you, but we've been doing it since 2010, and you can see it's a mix of 100 level, 200 level and 300 level courses. There's about 1,000 records altogether. So obviously some students have moved through the tourism program are in there multiple times, which is fine. Some courses they can turn up a lot, and some courses they might not. This is our student profile, so we see head of school there. We should advertise to the males that our courses are very heavily attended by females. That might attract them a bit more. We've got it so about two-thirds are female, two-thirds are sponsored, and about two-thirds are just under from Fiji, and we have a high segment of Solomon Islands students as well. All right, so first thing to look at, I look at it by week, starting from week 2, given that there's no tutorials in week 1, go up to 14. Tutorial attendance in the blue, lecture attendance in the red. Something should stand out to you at the start. It looks like attendance is very good, drops away as assessments are due. All right, so I can test this. Well, overall, our lecture attendance averaged about 67%, tutorial attendance about 80%. All right, so I can test this. We've got lecture attendance and tutorial attendance down the bottom, and attendance on the side. So for the total, we see these numbers, and then in the red, before the mid-semester break, lecture attendance 72, tutorial attendance 81. After the break, significantly different for those into the maths. 95% level of confidence. So students are in general not turning up, or turning up less after the mid-semester break. What else? All right. Also wanted to know, we've been emphasising at USP from year to year. We need students to turn up more. So I looked at again across all the levels. Was there any in 2010, 2011, 2012? We see some marginal increase in attendance for both lecture and tutorials. None of these statistically significant at the 95%, but still we see a general slight upward trend. Obviously, in the first semester, no, it's not true, is it? The 60% wasn't mandated until this semester. Okay. Now I also wanted to look at what about by level. So I noticed that the first year students maybe overly respectful, a bit like high school, things not here, do they turn up? Are they afraid? There seems to be some evidence, at least at the lecture level, of that. Maybe second year, they slacken off a bit, and then maybe third year, they're looking to graduate, so they start turning up again. Maybe I'm over-hypothesizing. No real difference in tutorial levels. In tutorial attendance across. So here we've got, again, attendance. We've got lectures in the blue, tutorials in the red, and this is the grade. Now the grade system changed, but to compare like with like, I've, for 2012, kept it the same categories as before. You can see the interpretation is students getting an A+, they turn up to 93% of tutorials and 80% of lectures, down to, say, a B, where they turn up to 70% of lectures, 84% of tutorials, down to the D, they're turning up just over half of the time. So we see this strong positive correlation between attendance and grade. I also wanted to know what about controlling for these variables. So sponsored students, do they turn up more? And significantly more likely to turn up to lectures, tutorials, and hence perform better than non-sponsored students. A couple of reasons you can think of for this. I guess one is to some extent self-selected. The better students perhaps win the scholarships and therefore turn up more. Maybe it's also the stick that comes around at mid-semester time. It says, if you don't turn up to lectures and tutorials, you'll be threatened with your scholarship being taken away. All right, so finally, I love to stick up some Greek letters up there. So I come up with a simple regression there. Performance, which is final mark, is dependent on tutorial, lectures, and the dummy variable for sponsored or not. And then this mu, which is an error term, which catches everything else. I don't know the education literature, but of course it can be impacted by lots of things like parents' income, quality of high school, etc., etc. I didn't obviously have all that. So run the OLS regression, and lecture attendance and tutorial attendance are both significant. So how do we interpret this? So for example, for a non-sponsored student, if they attend 60% of both lectures and tutorials, they get around a score of 52. If they attend everyone, they get a score of about 65. So a 10% increase in tutorial attendance, that's about 1, isn't it? We have about 10 to 12 a semester. Everything else being equal, we'll see grades increase by 2.2 marks. 10% increase in lectures, what's that? We do about 40 lectures a semester. If we're doing 3 a week, everything else being equal, we'll see the grades increase by about 1.1 marks. So, conclusions. Well, I just quantified what everybody knows. Yeah, quantifying the bleeding obvious. The more students attend lectures and tutorials, the better they perform. Tutorial attendance has the largest impact on student grades, but lecture attendance also contributes to the final mark, even controlling for the tutorial attendance. And of course those lecture and tutorial attendance are correlated with each other as well, positively. Lecture attendance and tutorial attendance we saw fall away as the semester goes on. Sponsored students more likely to to attend than non-sponsored students. It also tested for differences in gender and by country as well. There was no statistically significant differences. All right, time management seems to be an issue with some presenters today as well. So while SLS offer time management courses, students really need to emphasise this, the importance of being able to manage their time. I think we know from experience when things are due, the students disappear until they've submitted and then they start turning back up again. I'd also encourage students to actively listen in lectures. So what I mean by that is they sort of sit there and wander off as we do, and don't take notes or bullet points, and then turn around and say it's boring. Well, of course it's boring, because if I sat somewhere for 50 minutes not doing anything, I would find it boring as well. But if you're trying to engage or as much as possible, then try to get around this lecture attendance is boring type attitude. So I think that's it. No thank yous slide. But anyway, thank you.